M80 finally might be able to make it into Tier 1 if they just win one game. Because M80 is a team with Kaplan and Kyu and Nismo. But you know Kaplan and Kyu from Sentinels. They previously got kicked off after one stage at the beginning of this year. And so now from then they jump into stage 2 where Nismo, the beloved fan favorite, you know, the ultimate player that has the most potential and the most consistent results in Tier 2 but hasn't got the shot in Tier 1. And the combination of this core, like, it just breeds an underdog mentality on where they, a lot of VCT fans are wanting them to be able to make it into play-in so they could potentially play Sentinels. And that may be a real reality because they just need to get second place. And the reason, they just need to get second place is because in the first stint, they didn't really do that well. I don't think they even made it into playoffs. The second stint, they made it all the way into playoffs, into the grand finals, and won that. And right now, at this very moment, they look like the most Tier 1 ready team, like even better than some of the lowest teams on VCT, which is crazy to say, just because they've been flat out dominating teams that are good and teams that are bad, which is a sign of a really good team. If you're letting bad teams be able to get, games like upset games on you, then that shows, things that need to be worked on. But they're just flat out they're not even making it close because they've only dropped 2 maps within the 7 to 8 games that they played at the very moment of this time of recording. The reason that it's so important for them to make it into not make it into Tier 1, but the reason it's so important for them to be able to make it into second place, because right now they're in the position, if they win the upper final game, then they make it into the grand finals, and that secures top 2. And the reason they need that top 2 is just because they had a bad first stage. Ismail was the head coach, and this is before Kaplan and Kyu came in. And they didn't have really good results, and then from there, they've just been dominant. But they've only had 40 circuit points, and you need circuit points to be able to make it into the selection of being able to make it into plans. Because you have 2 selections. It's you auto qualify as a first seed through challengers, and if you make it as a second seed through the points, just because I added up the points, if they make it through points, then they make it into a format that's a little bit different. And that's kind of like an LCQ format where all the second teams from the Americas region, that's LATAM, that's Brazil, and including Americas, they all go into a pool together, and then I'm pretty sure they do like a little mini switch stage, and the winner of that makes it into the play-in as the 4th team. So we have one player that auto qualifies, the grand final winner of challengers from each of the regions. So that's Americas, Brazil, LATAM, and then we have the LCQ winner. And so at the very least, they would obviously want first place because then that guarantees that they actually do play. Whereas second seed, it's pretty much 50, or in this case 30%, 33% chance, because it's 3 teams in the LCQ. And the teams that they're facing up against, like in terms of circuit points that can kind of be competitive, or if they make it into a 3rd seed, they don't make it in, which is crazy to say, is SRB and Core. Core, the reason they got there is just because they've had pretty good results. In their first stage, they won they pretty much won the first stage, and then SRB has become the team that is in second place for the first stage and second stage. And so they have a good majority of the points. And so if an SRB or a Core, which right now are in a lower final, if they are able to one-up M80 in a lower final, then pretty much M80's hopes are shattered, just because right now they play a SAD, and if SAD win, M80 drop to the lower final, and an SRB or Core win, then that makes them rise up in the circuit points, and then both of those teams qualify. It's pretty complicated. Yeah, I'll show the graphic so that you can see what, how it looks visually. And in this tournament right now, it's so competitive just because we have pretty good results throughout the whole year. And The only exception to this, just if we look up the matchups right now, is an M80 and SAD, which is the two teams I highlighted, a Shopify Rebellion against Core. So if either of these teams make it in, then they have a really good chances because they have points. And then a NBG, which is Nightblood Gaming, and an NRG Academy, which NRG Academy doesn't count just because they wouldn't go into plans just because they're an academy team. And so these teams have all the opportunity. And again, all M80 need to do is just secure second place. So with that said, I just want to highlight the team just because I feel like it's a team that should be on your radar. I know that if they do make it into grand finals, they'll be on a lot of people's radar, even people that don't watch tier 2, just because the players, their quality, and their experience that they bring together really resembles a tier 1 team, which is crazy to say. Because if we go one by one, we can highlight some of the things that make them great. And just off of a short list, we have Bonnie, who's probably been one of the best duelists throughout, the whole year. And he's been in really good form. And I think what's really special about this team and what makes teams really special is their ability to have impact and their ability to be able to clutch, because all of these players have the ability to clutch and have impact. So if somebody's not clutching, then they will have rounds of impact that outweigh, the round and the shift the momentum in their favor. And Bonnie is one of those. Along with that, we have Alvin, who's probably, again, been the best Sentinel. All these players have been, the best, agents or subclass of agents, throughout their whole thing. And that isn't to say like, they're fragging. It's just their impact and their utility ability and the way their roles and the way they accept their roles in the team. And that leads also to Kyu, who's again been on Sentinels, former IGL, only played one split, which is crazy to say. And he's been, having really good game plans against, teams that aren't as great or as good as their quality, and they're just completely stomping them and dominating them. And even teams that are competitive, like a SRB, they take them to map 3s because they SRB have quality, but once they have a map and they have like a really comfortable map, and the other team isn't playing as well, they will just just start rolling. And then that leads to Nismo, who has been, again, a really good, like a really fan favorite in terms of Valorant and tier 2, just because a really reliable player. He's probably most famously known for his KO. And not only that, but he also plays a really good Raze. He can play, again, duelist, he can play initiator, and then he can also play smokes. He's been playing a lot of maps on Omen, on, again, the KO and Raze. And Spaz has been a really solid, really great controller, just because, as a controller, sometimes you kind of have to be able to know when to play for your team and when to play for yourself. In terms of playing for yourself is being able to take risks for your team so that you can, have the advantage. If you're in a man disadvantage, you're the one that is, peeking out of smoke, taking a timing, and being able to, gain an advantage or be able to mitigate the disadvantage. And Spaz has been that. And it's crazy to say, just because I've watched him formerly on SRB, and the way that he's grown as a player and as a controller, it's just, it just shows that a lot of these, there's a really good talent in tier 2. And a lot of these games, like, you see the potential in the players, and it's just about if they ever get the opportunity. And luckily, with the new year, and within 2027, it's finally going to be able to happen where even content creator teams or tier 2 teams can upset, really good, or sometimes even like decent tier 1 teams, franchise teams, and that's going to be really entertaining to watch. And so M80 have, the best shot, and I think everybody's rooting for them. And formally, I think that it's just about time. It's just about time. They've been in multiple grand finals, and now they finally have their shot, and they're one win away. And that Sentinels M80 game is gonna be absolute cinema. So we'll see. We'll see. I just want to highlight that because I know a lot of VCT viewers love Tier 1, but just know that Tier 2 and a lot of these Tier 2 teams are highly capable of beating Tier 1 talent. And not only that, but within the games of challengers, they're so entertaining. There's so many like moments where teams are or players are doing 1v4s or 1v5s or crazy clutches or crazy oh, like I didn't even think about that, or oh, like just so much potential that's being shown in these games. So yeah, M80 one game away, and yeah, we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you next one.